Oh, they look angry.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Seconds until minions spawn.
I'm not ugly, but they're about to be.
Minions have spawned.
King of Trolls coming through. This will only hurt a lot.
First blood.
Did I break something? Troll dust, rosemary, and
An enemy has been slain.
Time to start an ice age. Freljord is mine! The trolls are going to war!
spree.
I'm not ugly, but they're about to be.
An enemy has been slain. You have been slain.
I'm the troll with the plan.
Rampage.
I'm troll judge, troll jury, and execute troll. Time to start an ice age.
An ally has been slain.
A frill yard is mine. The trolls are
An
coming.
ally has been slain.
Like my fist fight.
Unstoppable.
Smash it.
Shut down. An enemy has been slain. Slain an enemy. An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain.
My town. Oh, they look angry.
An enemy has been slain.
I'm not ugly, but they're about to be. of trolls coming through.
An enemy has been slain.
Well met, human. Well kept dreams.
Troll judge, troll jury, and execute troll. Time to start an ice age.
An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain.
You're in my kingdom now. Brilliant is mine.
Your turret has been destroyed.
The trolls are going to war.
Has been slain. An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
I like my human with a
An
fist.
ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain. Turret plating will fall soon. Your team has destroyed the turret.
Not troll chief, troll king. King!
You have been slain.
I'm not ugly. They're about to be.
An enemy has been slain. Your turret has been destroyed. Double kill.
King of trolls coming through. With the plan. I'm troll judge, troll jury, and execute troll.
Killing spree.
You can never bag something too many
Rampage.
Time to start an ice age. This is all now.
An enemy has been slain.
Mine. You're in my kingdom now. The trolls are going to war.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
I like mine. Spice. Tactful people won't
Shut down.
I just had the strength.
An enemy has been slain.
Oh, they look angry. I'm not ugly, but they're about to be.
Enemy has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
I'm so touched, so sorry, and execute. The trolls are going to war!
An ally has been slain. Enemy rampage. Shut down. An An ally has been slain. Your team has destroyed. Have been slain. Slain.
Actual chief, troll king.
Killing spree.
Oh, they look angry.
Was that me?
This will only hurt a lot.
Well met, human.
King of trolls coming through. I'm through with the fight.
presidential hat, presidential seal on it.
You an autograph?
Sure, all of that.
Huh?
Yeah.
You remember your name?
I don't remember my name. I'm slow.
You're old fart. You're an old fart.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm an old guy.
And you're an old fart.
I know you would know about that.
What?
About being old.
Oh, I know.
There you go, man. I need that hat.
Want my autograph?
Hell no.
You know my name. Come on.
I ain't going that far.
Yeah. Let's do a selfie. There you go. Proud of you now.
Just remember that no eating dogs and cats.
Hey, they're good.
I'll give you my presidential hat, presidential seal on it.
You an autograph it?
Oh, sure, all of that.
Huh?
Yeah.
You remember your name?
Joe Rogan had to contact YouTube several times before the shadow banning issue with the Trump episode was resolved.
Something happened. I'm sure it was a mistake at YouTube where you couldn't search for it. I'm sure it was a mistake.
It has
There's
to be a
no way
mistake,
that was on
Joe.
purpose. If you Googled Rogan Trump, you could only get clips. You couldn't watch the whole episode. You couldn't find it. Elon was furious, and so Elon contacted Daniel Ek at Spotify, and they put it on X as well. So now it has way more views. You can't suppress shit. It doesn't work. This is the internet. This is 2024. People are going to realize what you're doing. If that's not trending, you tell me what the fuck is.
After the full-length version disappeared from search results, Joe Rogan had to contact YouTube several times before the shadow banning issue with the Trump episode was resolved.
Something happened. I'm sure it was a mistake at YouTube where you couldn't search for it. I'm sure it was a mistake.
It has
There's
to be a
no way
mistake,
that was on
Joe.
purpose. If you Googled Rogan Trump, you could only get clips. You couldn't watch the whole episode. You couldn't find it. Elon was furious, and so Elon contacted Daniel Ek at Spotify, and they put it on X as well. So now it has way more views. You can't suppress shit. It doesn't work. This is the internet. This is 2024. People are going to realize what you're doing. If that's not trending, you tell me what the fuck is.
After the full-length version disappeared from search results, Joe Rogan had to contact YouTube several times.
Come up here, come here. You look so smart, good. Do you mind if I do a job interview right now? We need good people. How are you? So what's your experience in front of the world?
Well, I design, I do wreaths, I do all types of decoration.
And you like this building?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. There's the man. Stand right over here.
Oh my God.
If we can make a good deal in the salary, she's going to probably have a job, okay? All right, good. Have a good time. Thank you, sweetie. Thank you. Good. So nice. Really nice. I felt good about her. I tell you what, I looked at her. I said, I have gut instinct, okay? And we're allowed to have that. And I looked at her and she asked a question and it was a very positive question. She looks like she's got a great look and look at that with the tears. How nice. She just seemed like a good person to me. Come up here, come here.
I've been in recovery most of
to think.
Is they
You hear that one? Crime has gone down. I mean, I'm debating with this guy, but I've had that.
Well, there was amended FBI statistics that came out after that
Yeah.
showed that crime had gone up
And
substantially.
by the way, the statistics were a fraud because when they put out the statistics, they didn't include some of the worst places. They didn't include some of the worst cities, some of the most deadly places. But
And
when the
then there's
real
also
numbers
a
came
problem-
out, I turned out to be right. But I haven't
you
gotten...
turn out to be right, but then there's another problem. Unreported crime is way up because people have lost. Look, the morale that the police department has in a lot of these cities where they've done this defund the police bullshit.
Right.
The morale of these
It
poor
is.
cops, it's fucking horrible.
Yeah.
It's the dumbest idea
So
of all
bad,
time.
so bad.
But what they've done is they've made these cops feel terrible. They're like good cops. I think cops are just like everybody else. Most of them are great. It's like everybody else. But if you run into one carpenter and he does a shitty job in your house,
That's right.
you say carpenters fucking suck. But they don't suck. Most of them are great. And
Police
that's the
have
key
been-
thing with cops. But the point is
Yeah.
like they did all of these things in this very foolish way.
Right.
And these cops are suffering the consequences of it. And so subsequently what happens is a lot of crime is unreported. A lot of crime, like you call the cops, they're too busy, they can't even get to you. Oh, your house got broken into? Sorry. You know, it doesn't even make a report. There's a lot of people that they just give up.
It's so sad what's happened. And I'll tell you what, I go to police funerals, and we went to one in Long Island. I visited the family in Long Island. A very big deal. It's so dangerous. People don't realize. The car, dark windows, pull over. He's a gentleman. Please pull over. Door opens. Guy comes out firing. Even if they were allowed to pull out their gun, which they're not, they can't, pull
Do
out
it in
the-
time. Yeah.
They still wouldn't have time.
It's every cop's worst nightmare.
They opened the door, and he was killed, and his partner was hurt. He was killed. And you don't even have an eighth of a second to think. And it is such a dangerous job. That in particular, think of it, you go up to a car, you don't know who's sitting there with a gun, and if they have a gun, you really don't have a chance. You're not allowed to have your gun out, by the way. You have to have very strict rules. So, number one, but even if you could have your gun out, the door opens and bullets start firing out, and especially where they have the dark windows, where they have the darkened windows. It is such a dangerous profession, and it's very hard to get cops now because they're not given any backup. And you're right. They have like an eighth of a second to make a decision that's going to change their life. If they make the wrong decision, they're going to end up on the front page of every newspaper in the country, and they're going to lose their house and their pension and their job, and their wife is going to be gone, and everything's
Absolutely.
going to be gone.
And here's another thing that people don't talk about. How many of you have PTSD? Probably most of them.
Yeah.
These guys are seeing people shot all the time. I've talked to a ton of cops about it, and a lot of cops commit suicide. A lot of cops are deeply depressed. A lot of
But we have to
cops,
give
they've
them
seen-
back their
Yes.
dignity. We just have to give it back. You said it so good. You never hear anybody say that. You're never going to have it perfect. You're going to have a bad apple.
In everything, in every profession.
But every time there's a bad apple, that gets massive publicity, and it taints everybody else.
But it's also this very irresponsible thing where people say defund the police, get rid of the police. Even Kamala Harris was a part of that. That it's a very stupid way to look at it. What you should do is fund the police. You should have better training. You should have cops that feel more appreciated. You should have something that helps mitigate this PTSD that all of them suffer through.
Right. She was a big part of defund the police. That was a big thing for her, defund the police, always defund the police.
Well, it's a political idea,
but
right?
anybody with that political thought,
Yeah.
I don't think should be running for president, and I think people are getting wise to it. We're doing pretty well. Now, I don't know, maybe in a week from now, say, sorry about that, I was wrong, but we're leading everything. And I think we're going to have a very good election. But I tell people, because people are starting to get to know her. But she was defund the police. She was all these transgender operations. If you wanted a sex change and you were in detention and you demanded a sex change, they would give you a sex change.
Well, the wildest one is this idea of giving free sex change to illegal immigrants.
That's right. In detention.
That is the wildest
But
thing.
she was-
Is that the biggest problem you have?
Yeah.
You just walked here from Guatemala. You need to become a girl.
But she was in favor of it.
Yes.
So think of it. She changed. She changed 15 policies. In fact, I'm going to send her a MAGA cap.
She stole your idea about no tax for tips.
I came up with this idea that honestly nobody ever heard of. And now it took her 2 months, but you know what? All of a sudden,
It caught fire.
and she just put it into a little speech.
Yeah,
well,
it became
but
popular.
I think we still have that issue. I think that issue is a good one for us. But then we have a lot of good issues. You know, we had the other day. Think of how simple some of these are. We're trying to get cars built in the United States. Detroit has been really tough. It's been a disaster. They have a huge factory, a huge car auto plant being built by China in Mexico, make cars, sell them in the United States, put everybody out of business. Right, here we go again. I said, if that plant is there when I'm president, I will put 100 or 200% tariffs on every car. They'll be unsaleable in the United States. And they just announced they're not going to build the plant because they think I'm going to win. Think of it. They're not going to build the plant. This was the biggest plant in the world. It would have more than all of Michigan makes. So that's how big. You know, this is what we're getting to. And I said, if that plan goes up, I want them to understand if I win, I'm going to tax those cars at the rate of 100 or 200% apiece so that you won't be able to sell them in the United States. They just announced they're not going to build the plant.
Yeah, I read that.
I did a big favor for our country by doing that. And I'm not even there yet. To me, the most beautiful word, and I've said this for the last couple of weeks, in the dictionary today, is the word tariff. It's more beautiful than love. It's more beautiful than it. It's the most beautiful word. This country can become rich with the proper use of tariffs.
Did you just float out the idea of getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with tariffs?
Well, okay.
Were you serious about that?
Yeah, sure. But why not? Because ready? Our country was the richest relatively in the 1880s and 1890s. A president who was assassinated named McKinley. He was the tariff king. He spoke beautifully of tariffs. His language was really beautiful. We will not allow the enemy to come in and take our jobs and take our factories and take our workers and take our families unless they pay a big price. And the big price is tariffs. And he'd speak like that, but he was right. And then around in the early 1900s, they switched over stupidly to factor income tax. And you know why? Because countries were putting a lot of pressure on America. We don't want to pay tariffs. Please don't. You know, believe me, they control our politicians. If you look at the kind of numbers that these guys make, then and now. But we had a commission meeting in the, I think it was 1887. Think of this problem. We were so rich, we had so much money, we didn't know what to do. So they set up a blue ribbon commission on tariffs. And the sole purpose is what to do with all the money we had. We were so rich because we were taxing other people for coming in and taking our jobs. And China does it. That's what China did. If you want to open a factory and sell cars, if you build a factory here or have a factory, they don't take our cars. They wouldn't take our cars. But if you build a plant in China, you can do that. Elon did that. By the way, Elon is great. That guy is such a great guy. I think you're a fan of Elon. He is from a different planet. He's the greatest guy. That rocket coming in.
Yeah.
I told the story once or twice, so you may have heard it because these speeches have been good. Did you see the one last night?
Yeah.
29,000 people. That was it.
Yeah.
And the one the night before was the same thing. We are rocking and rolling. But Elon, and I'm talking to this very important guy. I said, wait a minute, I'm looking at something, the television's unmuted, right? And I see this rocket, it's all brown from the heat, you know, it comes 10,000 degrees pouring down at thousands of miles an hour. And I see this thing, you know, it's like a 20-story building.
And it catches.
And I say to this guy, he's an important guy, wait a minute, let me just put you down, hold on, I gotta see this. And I see this, and it's gonna crash. I say, it's gonna crash into the gantry, they call it a gantry. I said, oh man, that's gonna be a disaster because it's starting to get very close. And then all of a sudden you see the flames in the bottom, and then boom, and then you see the two arms grab it.
Crazy.
And I forgot the guy, I had him on the phone. I forgot. No, I said, the hell with it. No, I called Elon, I said, was that you? He said, that was me. And I said, who else can do that? He said, nobody. Russia can't do it. The United States, nobody can do it. You know, I set up Space Force. That was me, and that's the first time in 82 years that we opened another branch since the Air Force. And that's going to be one of our most important things. But think of what Elon does. And he did one other thing that I never heard of it. It's Starlink. I went down to North Carolina, Georgia, the different places. Right there, I followed it right down. And they had no communication. The poles were all knocked down. And one of the guys in North Carolina said, could you do me a favor? Do you know Elon Musk? Yes. He endorsed me. By the way, he gave me the nicest endorsement too. The tough. He said the country's going to fail. You should do the same thing, Joe, because you cannot be voting for Kamala. Kamala, you're not a Kamala person. I know you. I've watched you. I know him better than he is. You know what? Without speaking to you, I think I know you maybe almost as well as your wife. I have watched you for so many years. You're not a Kamala person. You're a Khabib person, but you're not a Kamala person. No, nobody's going to know who Khabib is, but.
They know.
He was not bad, right? That guy.
He was phenomenal.
But that's your kind of
Your
person.
weave is getting wide. We're getting wide with this weave.
But isn't it
I want
much
to bring it
better?
back to tariffs.
But wait one second before we finish with tariffs. So they said, could you get him? We need Starlink. And I called Elon. He got it for him so fast, saved so many lives. And I said, how was it? They said, better than the wires. You know, they couldn't put them in. They were all gone. So
I used it recently in Utah in the mountains.
Did you find it good?
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's the size of a iPad. You just set it down on the ground. You get high-speed internet. It's incredible.
We're spending, just to show you, we're spending $1 trillion to get cables all over the country, right? Up to upstate areas. We have like 2 farms, and they're spending millions of dollars to have
Well,
a
talk
cable.
about the
Elon can do it for
$42
nothing.
billion that was wasted on this internet access program. The United States, they didn't get anybody.
They haven't
access
hooked
to
up.
anybody.
They haven't hooked up one person.
Not one person. They spent $42 billion. They could have gotten Starlinks to everybody with that kind of money.
For almost nothing.
Yeah.
For a monthly charge.
And it would have been incredible.
And he
high-speed
wanted to-
internet everywhere you want to go.
And he wanted to do that.
And he wanted to do it.
How about this? They built the charger stations, right?
Uh-huh.
In the Midwest. They built 8 of them. They cost $9 billion. That's like a gas pump, right? They built 9 gas pumps, except electricity comes out. They spent $9 billion. 3 of them don't work. The whole thing. There's so much waste. I could sit here and tell you about things that there's so much waste, abuse, and fraud.
I'm sure. I mean, I think everybody's aware of that.
Let's
now.
get back to tariffs.
When you're talking about, one of the criticisms of your administration was with tax cuts and with tariffs, you increased the deficit. So, what was the strategy behind that? And did you think it was going to increase the deficit by a substantial amount?
Okay, we were ready to rock. It was all, I had a bad system. We had horrible tax policy. I made it great with a much lower tax rate. So I took it from almost 40% down to 21%. Now I'm bringing it from 21 down to 15, but only if you make your product in the United States, which is great. People call me this, what a great idea. Nobody ever heard of that before. I don't care if they make the product in Japan. Why should I give them? So it's at 21. That, at 21, in the first year, we took in much more revenue than we did at almost 40. Think of that. It inspired. Now we had other things too. We were able to get people to bring back their money. You couldn't bring back your money if you had money in Europe, like Apple. Apple had many billions of dollars outside. They couldn't bring it. There was no way to bring it back in. The bureaucracy, the documents, the whole thing, and also the tax was too high. They wanted like half of it or something. Nobody's going to do that. So they leave their money in Japan and they spend their money there. That was part of what I did. The money came pouring back in. Apple took in hundreds of billions of dollars. They brought it back from overseas. They brought it in.
So how does the deficit increase because of that?
So what happened is this. We were ready to rock and roll, and then we had the COVID thing, and we had to focus on that. And if we didn't give some businesses a hand, you would have had a depression like in 1929. But we were ready to start. We would have very shortly been paying off debt. We have $35 trillion in debt. And I'll never forget it. It was talking about from, the standpoint of being in office. I'm in the Oval Office, and I have John McLaughlin and Fabrizio, the 2 very good pollsters, probably, I don't know, I would say the 2 best, who knows, but very good pollsters. and we're starting to think about running for a second term. And we had the greatest economy in history. Never has there been an economy like
And you attribute that to lowering taxes
a lot
and
of
tariffs.
Two things. And also I cut regulations more than anybody else. And if, I asked many of the businessmen, from the big companies, the guys running the big companies, I'd say, so you have a choice. You've had it now for a long time. What's more important to you, the tax cuts, you paid less tax, or the regulation cuts? Every one of them said the regulation cuts meant more. Who would think that, right? Because you don't equate it to dollars, but it actually is more dollars. We had it going, and then we just had to focus on something else. But they were sitting there, these two pollsters were sitting there, and they said, sir, if George Washington came back and Abraham Lincoln was his VP, as opposed to Waltz, how bad is he, by the way? But if Abraham Lincoln was his VP, they couldn't beat you. You have it. And I'll never forget it. The following day, they said, something's happening in China, sir. Could we meet? I said, what's happening? People are dying. And it was all around the Wuhan lab, by the way. There are pictures with little lines, their body bags, all around the Wuhan lab. And I always said that from the beginning, Joe. Was, they tried to say, first they said it was France, and they blamed everybody.
Right.
But then they say it was bats from a cave 2,000 miles away. So we got hit with that, and despite that, we had the best economy. And when I gave it over, the stock market was higher than it was pre-COVID. I mean, nobody could even believe it. But we saved it, and we were helping businesses. They were dying. They were
So
dying.
it's your belief that if you had a second term, given the policies in place, the way the economy was booming, that you would have been able to pay off a lot of the debt. And
If
that was
we
the
didn't have
strategy.
COVID, we would have been paying off debt, and we would have had, and don't forget, by growth, the word growth is actually more important than because you could have the same debt, but if you doubled your growth, all of a sudden you're under 11. But still, we should pay off debt. If you view this, $35 trillion right now, it's a lot. But if you look at the asset value, if you look at it purely as an asset value, we have oil underground, we have water, we have mountains, the assets are so enormous. But regardless of that, the 35 trillion in debt, we should pay it off. And we would have started paying off debt and probably even given further tax reductions. I want to get it down to 15%. We're going to do more business. But when you get hit with a COVID, everything stops, and you have to keep these businesses alive. The businesses were dying. They were just dying. This whole place, this country was going to die.
Are there influences outside of environmental that keep people from wanting to drill for oil and frack and do those sort of things, outside of the environmental concerns, which are legitimate, of course?
No,
but are there other influences that maybe over-accentuate or over-exaggerate these environmental effects? Are people being influenced in a way where they're trying to keep us from producing American oil?
Yeah. So the environment is the biggest tool for stopping growth, the biggest tool. The other is regulation. And if you speak to Elon, he said the regulation now to send a rocket up to anywhere, even if you do everything, it's becoming impossible. But they used environmental in order to get people not to do anything. And sometimes I say, I look at some of I know the environmental stuff better because I had to build buildings in New York. I highly recommend it. I was good at getting permits. I was one of the kings of, I was always very good. But the environmental stuff was always horrible. They could slow a project down 10 years, 15 years. I had a project in Louisiana, built big LNG plant. It was for 14 years. It was going to cost $18 billion. One of the biggest, like the Empire State Building, laying down on its side times 4. Massive on the coast, on the Gulf Coast. And they said, sir, they're going to give it up. I said, they shouldn't give it up. What's the problem? They can't get their environmental. They had environmental permits that would fill this whole room up to the ceiling. And they said there was one mistake on one little line. They wanted to do it all over again. It's not going to happen. And I got them their permit instantly. And they built the plant. It's massive.
So when you're saying that, so there's people that are making money by making it difficult.
Yeah.
Are you
They
talking
make-
about lawyers?
No,
Just they're
well, I'm
dragging
talking about
out
environmental
the process?
consultants and lawyers. Yeah.
Environmental consultants profit off of dragging out the process.
Absolutely.
And
And
how
they
do
make
they
the
profit?
process.
How do they profit?
And I'd
off it?
probably do the same thing if I were them, to be honest with you.
As a
I want to be
business.
honest with you.
How do they do that? How do they make it?
They
how
go,
do they-
let's say New York, they go to Albany,
Okay.
and they convince people that if you have a certain type of plant on the ground that's this big and in theory valueless, that it's a rare plant, and you cannot ever even touch it. You can't go near it. You can't put a building on it. You can't do anything. Or there's a little puddle, and they call it a lake, and you have to go by the standards of a lake. I said, no, that's a puddle. Oh, you have no idea. Guys are filling little puddles. You have no idea what they do.
And
It's
so-
hard.
but-
and they use it as a way to stop you.
They use it as a way to stop you, and also as a way to generate money. I'm
a weapon.
curious how are they generating money that way, though?
Well, they get fees,
They get fees,
massive fees.
and
you pay these guys.
people rely on them as experts because they're the people that they go to when they have to run these studies in the first
But
place,
some of them are just bad guys, and they're trying to make it more and more difficult.
and they have a lot of power.
Yeah, I think they maybe had more. They didn't have as much with me because I would get through them, and I understood it. Look, I've done so many they call it environmental impact study. I did so much to build a building. To build a building in New York is very tough. You got to be you got to deal with. Think of it: financing, unions, all the municipal stuff, environmental. Of all of it, for me, the toughest thing was the environmental. Because they could stop you cold with the environmental impact study stuff. And you hire a so-called expert. They say, sir, he's the one guy who can get you through the morass. It's a morass. It's horrible. They use it as a weapon. They use it all over the country.
Right, but there are legitimate concerns about environmental
There
impact,
are,
correct?
there are,
Like, look
but-
about the BP oil spill. There's a lot of things that do happen that are environmentally devastating,
Yeah.
and you want to mitigate that as much
You
as possible.
do. You do. Look, I had, during our 4 years, we had the cleanest air and the cleanest water. I view it differently. I say air and water. Remember this, it costs much more to do things environmentally clean. China doesn't do anything.
Right.
When Kerry goes to see President Xi of China, which he probably doesn't even get to see him, but they look at him, oh yes, we will do, oh yes, we're going to do that, no more coal, just, and then they approve 58 coal plants for the next, they build a coal plant a week, okay?
They build a lot of coal plants.
But let me just tell you though, so here we are cleaning and scrubbing everything, and everything's got to, and the air's got to be pure, but in 3.8 days, that stuff floated over China is right over the top of us.
Right.
Same thing with the oceans. They dump their garbage into the Pacific Ocean. You take a little cork and put it there, in about a week and a half it'll be in front of Los Angeles. We're picking up their garbage. So nobody ever talks about that. But in a way, the bigger one is even the air. It's the currents. It's an amazing thing. It's been flowing that way for 1 million years, or long before.
We
long
share
before
air
we
with the
were
whole
there.
world. Yeah.
No, if we're
We get the
cleaning,
Sahara dust clouds over here.
absolutely.
We get dust clouds in Austin from the Sahara Desert.
But we get the China, they call it the China curse. We get the China curse. They're bad, and their air is dirty. When I went there, I had a good relationship with the and they treated me better than anybody's ever been treated. Same thing with Saudi Arabia, a number of them. But they laid it out. And I said, this air is good. Do you know they closed every factory 1 week before I got there from within 200 miles?
That's like what Gavin Newsom did when Xi Jinping came to San Francisco.
He cleaned it up.
He got rid of all
Isn't
the
that
homeless
terrible
people.
in a way? To think, he cleaned it up and then it became a pigsty.
Well, the
He
dumbest
is-
thing is he said when your friends come by, when you have visitors, you clean up your house. Like, how about just keep your fucking house clean?
Can you imagine?
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard anybody say ever as a governor as to excuse to why you finally cleaned up your homeless problem.
And the day he left,
Right back to
it
it.
went right back.
Yeah.
But in a way, that was a bad thing that he did because he showed
Shouldn't
what,
be done.
what a disgrace that
Yeah.
was. What a disgrace.
Well, this is the thing that shows you how foolish a lot of these people that are running these cities think. A lot of these people that are running these states think. It's foolish. Like you're insulting the intelligence of the people that live in that city that are impacted by these people just camping and needles and human feces. There's an app that you can buy. There's an app that you can get, rather, that will show you where the human feces has been documented in San Francisco. It's a poo app. And it's just everywhere. It's just bum crap everywhere.
But let me give you one that you may not know.
Okay.
Which I think you know everything, actually, as a student of yours. but water, in Los Angeles you can't get proper amounts of water.
Right.
And it's unbelievably expensive. And you might have a house in Beverly Hills, and they're actually thinking about rationing water. Can you believe it?
I can believe it.
And I was in the farm court country with some of the congressmen. We're driving up Iowa, and I say, how come all this land is so barren? It's farmland, and it looked terrible. It was just brown and bad. I said, but there's always that little corner that's so green and beautiful. They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why do you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north. More water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. You got to see this. We're driving up, and I had never seen it before. It's like Iowa. It's the most fertile land. Iowa's blessed with great land. Idaho, great potato, right?
Yeah.
But they're just, by the way, some land is good for potatoes, some land is good for corn. It's the craziest thing. I love the farmers. They're great. They're the greatest. And by the way, they're getting killed right now.
They are.
They're getting killed because of the stupid administration. But so I see this, and I said, you got to be kidding. I said, you mean you have water? And I looked at it. It's like a valve in your sink, except it's massive. The thing's 5 times taller than your ceiling.
Did you know the center of California was a giant lake?
Yeah, so much.
You ever see what it looks like before they rerouted it? The center of California, what was it, 200 years ago? How long ago did they do that, Dan? The center of California had a fucking enormous lake in the middle of
So
California.
they dumped it into the Pacific.
What they did. But whatever foolishness that they did led to the situation that they're in now.
Think of those dry forests that burned down all over the world. The head of Austria said,
Tulare Lake, or Tachi Lake. It's a freshwater lake in the southern San Joaquin Valley, United States. Historically, Tulare Lake was one of the largest freshwater lakes west of the Mississippi. Show a photo of what it looked like back then.
It's a great system.
So that's what it looked like. Look at that image. Now go to the one on the third from the right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an enormous lake in the middle of California. Imagine that.
That'd be much more valuable property.
How crazy is that? But how crazy is that? What it used to look like? And human beings screwed that up.
No, they let it go into the Pacific, and then they...
I don't know what they did. What did they do how did it go missing?
Yeah, they drained it.
1983. Oh my God.
As a bone.
Yeah.
Okay?
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You could have everything. Not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires. And there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. When a tree falls down, after 18 months it becomes very dry. It's like, like real firewood. It's bad. A tree that's up, these are all things I learned the hard way, the easy way. But when a tree is up, it sucks water. It's wet. I went to they had a couple of horrible forest fires in California, and I said, you had a lot of trees standing. Yes, they were healthy trees, sir. I said, with this intense heat, that you could see they were charred a little bit on the bottom, but they were going to be all right because they're soaking wet because they suck up the water, right? But when they fall, they're like, it's like lighting a match.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to clean, they call it maintain your forest. So I was with the head of Austria. He said, it's a shame. I see all those forest fires in California, and all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning rake it up, get rid of the leaves, get rid of, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
we'll certainly get rid of the dead fall.
And get rid of the trees that have fallen that are like... so many things this country. By the way,
could you really rake the whole
done.
forest though? I don't think you could rake the whole forest.
No, you could,
I think you can get rid of the deadfall, but raking all the leaves.
You could certainly get rid of the dead. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the real issue.
Environmentally, they don't want to do that. They said, it's got to be nature and all this stuff. But in the meantime, this is exactly right. But you could have it was the Department of Commerce that needed the approvals, but Gavin Newsom had to sign them. I got it all done. Nobody could believe it. It was all done. I said, I got it. You got so much water. All you have to do is sign. And that guy didn't want to sign.
Did he not want to sign because that would be a political victory for you?
I think, no, he didn't. No, I don't think so. He used to say he's a great president and we got along. We did. We actually got along at that point. But I think somebody said you just can't continue to call him a great president. They do say that. But we had it all done. He didn't sign, and then we got on to other things. And I every time I go to California, I said, you have so much water. They don't know it. I'm telling you, people living in Beverly Hills, they turn off the water. Same thing with the electric. They want to go to all electric cars, but they have brownouts every weekend,
Well, right after they made the announcement that as of 2035, you're not going to be able to buy an internal combustion engine in California,
Yeah.
like within a month, they had some announcement asking people to not charge their Teslas. Because the grid couldn't handle it. Well, how are you going to handle it?
I will terminate the mandate immediately. Just
Good,
a mandate.
thank you.
That will be done, I would say, in my first day, maybe 2 days, because,
Let me ask you about nuclear. One of the things that when I've talked to people that have a real understanding of nuclear power, what their position is, it's probably the cleanest, safest form of electricity that we could generate, and that the fears of nuclear power are really about a few disasters: the Fukushima, 3 Mile Island. These are old systems, and that they're much more capable now, and they're capable of making even better systems. But it's a difficult political issue because you think nuclear power, you think Chernobyl. That's what everybody does. They have this connection. They had the potential
or Fukushima,
Fukushima,
where you're not supposed to enter the land for 3,000 years or something.
It's I think it's worse than that. I think that area is like going to be radioactive for probably longer than you could imagine. But the point is they're better at it now.
Right.
And that they could do it now, and you can generate power in a way that you don't have to worry about these. One of the most ridiculous things is electric cars being powered by coal-fired plants. It's a ridiculous thing.
That's what's happening.
Yeah, that is what's happening. And people want to think they're being green, but it's...
Well, you look at the way the batteries are made, but here's the other thing. We don't have... Well, we do, actually. It's being held. We have certain areas where we have great raw earth material, and we're not allowed to use it because of the environment. And we have areas in California that have incredible raw earth, and they're not allowing, and I'm going to open it up. I'm going to let them use it.
But how do you do that?
China.
How do you do that and protect the environment?
Because the environment's going to be protected. You can do it. You can make a lake out of it. Okay, we'll put back a lake. I mean, something nice about lakes. You can do things magnificently.
You just have to do it carefully and responsibly.
Absolutely, you have to do it carefully. But the problem, China has all of those areas, most of those areas. And yet, when they say go electric with the cars,
Gente, pivo, tá?
China's going to be the one that gives us the cars. All of those guys in Detroit are going to be out of business. You're going to make your electric cars over there. We have a thing called gasoline, and we have more oil and gas under our feet than any other nation. You know, I had, in Alaska, there's a find. It's called Anwar. I got it approved. Reagan couldn't get it. Nobody could get it. I got it all done. It was amazing. They were getting ready to start drilling. The equivalent, they think, of Saudi Arabia, one of the biggest finds in the world. It was all set to go. And Biden comes in, one of his first orders were, we're not going to use it. It would have been so good we could have supplied all of Asia with oil and gas.
What was the negative?
And you talk about money.
Right.
The negative was politically they didn't think it was good for them. That's all.
That's all it was. So you don't think that it's environmentally dangerous?
Taking it from way down deep in the earth, environmentally would have been fine.
So it can be done responsibly.
Absolutely. Oh, otherwise,
the point where it
let's
protects the environment.
Well, I think windmills. Okay, so they talk about windmills.
Point.
I think windmills are really disruptive. When you talk about the environment, they killed the birds. You want to see a bird cemetery? Go under a windmill someday that hasn't been cleaned out with all the bird carcasses. It's like massive amounts of
Well, they're
birds.
also a massive eyesore. I went to a ranch in South Texas. We had to drive past this enormous windmill farm, and it's gross. It's dystopian. You're looking in the left and the right, and all you see is these big spinning machines that aren't even that effective at generating electricity.
Correct. Most expensive form of electricity is a windmill, and then they start to rust and rot.
And you have to
then they
replace
get
them?
abandoned by the people that built them.
Well, you have to get rid of all that material too. When you replace those blades, now you have a problem because you have to dispose. Right, you have to dispose these enormous windmills. And how
By
do
the
you
way, they
dispose
say
of
you
them?
can't bury them. So I even question that, but I'm not going to get into it. But they say you can't bury the blades. So you have the blades, and you can't bury the blades. You can bury the blades. It's not going to matter. You can bury them. You'll find areas you can bury. But they come up, this is what I mean, they come up with this, but the environmentalist dream is windmills, everyone. You know what happens to them? After 5 years, they start to rot. After 10 years, you have to replace them. Did you ever